Welcome everyone to the Pastoral Evangelism and Leadership Council webinar series, Am I Okay? For the past several weeks, we hope that you have been helped by these practical and equipping teaching sessions that our aim is to help navigate mental, emotional, spiritual, and congregational health. And if you've been tracking with us so far, we appreciate it. We hope that this has added value to your minutes, your hours, your days, and your life. And we hope that you are okay. And if not, we want you to know that you're not alone. We are growing through what we're going through together. Today, we're going to have an awesome conversation. As you've seen from the advertisements, our theme today is Y'all Gonna Make Me Lose My Mind. We're emphasizing parenting in quarantine. Let all the parents say, I know that's right. But I'm not going to have this conversation with you by myself. No, I'm not. We've got an awesome panel that will be led out by one of my good friends and brothers. He's no stranger to us, brother Pastor Kymone Hinds. So I'm going to bring in our panelists at this time. We're going to invite in Pastor Kymone Hinds to come in. There he is. What's going on, brother?
Man, I'm good. How you doing today?
I'm doing excellent, man. It's good to see your face. Good to see your name. And I'm grateful that you're going to be leading us out today. We also have Dr. Seanna-Kaye Williams. There she is. How are you doing today?
I'm blessed and highly favored. Thank you so much.
That's right. That's right. It's good to see you here. We have Pastor Rebecca Davis, the West Coast. They tell me it's the best coast. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. It's good to see you as well, my sister. And then we have Dr. Toussaint Williams representing Huntsville. What's going on?
That's it. How you doing? What's up, man?
Doing well. It's good to see you all. Thank you all. And I just want you to know that I am praying for each of you and your families. I'm sure you've had your fair share of Y'all Gonna Make Me Lose My Mind moments with your kids. So I hope that you're able to draw from your experiences to share with us today. Kymone, man, it's over to you.
Thank you so much, Richard. I'm honored. I'm delighted to be a part of this great conversation with some awesome individuals. Those of you who are on watching this now, just do me a favor. A first favor is share this because other people will be benefited by this. And secondly, just type in the comments, tell us where you're watching this from. I saw someone's already telling us Shireen is watching this from the United Kingdom. So that's awesome. We got people watching this all the way in the UK. But wherever you're watching this from, please let us know where you are tuning in. We want this to be a blessing to you, where you are, with what you're going through during these very difficult and interesting times. So I want to start off by kind of introducing myself and then allowing each of our panelists to introduce themselves. My name is Kymone Hinds. Right now, my family and I, we live in Tampa, Florida. See another Florida person in the house, Dr. Bushner. So I'm in Tampa, Florida. My wife and I, we have 3 teenagers. I was thinking about this last night. I have a freshman in high school, a junior in high school, and a senior in high school all at the same time. Wow. So I'm going to lose my mind, right? In terms of my context, I work for myself, also kind of teach part-time at a school. So that's what I'm doing. That's my family makeup, especially concerning my kids. And I want to just ask our panelists to introduce yourselves, tell us about your ministry, your leadership, what you're doing, and then family, kids, and ages and stages of life so that we can, those who are watching this, they can relate to you at different stages, what you're going through. Let's start with Dr. Seanna-Kaye.
Hi, I'm Dr. Seanna-Kaye Williams. I am a wife and a mother and a ministry leader, married to a chaplain. And we have one child, a 3-year-old son, a 3-nager, if you please. I am a clinical psychologist, and I'm also a senior leader and hospital administrator at a level 1 trauma hospital in Brooklyn, New York. And I'm a practicing advanced practice clinical psychologist specializing in child and adolescent psychology and learning more on the job in terms of parenting than ever I learned in a textbook.
Thank you, Seanna-Kaye. I may need to call you after this is over because what you mentioned, your specialty, I may need you to talk to me. Pastor Rebecca Davis. Rebecca, can you introduce yourself? Tell us ministry, leadership context, your family, kids. Talk to us.
Yes, hi everybody. I am Rebecca Davis. I am currently the young adult and groups pastor at the Mount Rubidoux Seventh-day Adventist Church in Riverside, California, and I love being there. I just want to say. Also, I am a single mom of. I have a 6-year-old daughter and I have an 11-year-old son. And so, yeah, that's where we are.
Yes. All right. And then we'll go to Dr. Toussaint Williams. Toussaint, introduce yourself. Tell us the ministry, leadership context, and family, kids, and all of that.
First of all, I'm kind of you see half of me here today. My wife, unfortunately, was unable to make it. Her name, Dr. LaKeisha Williams. She is the vice principal over at the Academy, Oakwood Adventist Academy, here on the campus of Oakwood University. Together, we have 2 young men. Eleazar is 15 and Uriah is 11. Eleazar just started driving, and that joy of it's a whole nother journey of driving. Uriah is 11, but I think he's 18 or 19 in his mind. So that's been an adventure. I am the associate pastor, one of the associate pastors here at the Oakwood University Church. Have opportunity just to, praise God, to serve, enjoy teaching. I'm teaching several classes here on the university and at the academy. So got a lot going on, but parenting is one of those things that will definitely make us lose our mind. But it's definitely a journey, but we're on to it. And we're going to listen to what these ladies have on the panel so I can make sure we're taking notes so I can go back so I don't kill my children.
Yeah, I got some paper right here.
Love you, Toussaint. That's all I want to say.
Yeah. I got some notes. I'm taking notes. All right. So those of you who are watching this, please, if you have questions as well, please type them in the comments. The folks watching from UK, Florida, Virginia, the campus of Virginia State, South Carolina, thank you so much for watching today. All right. So I want to start off by just asking this question. We know that during this time of the COVID-19 pandemic, parents, because schools are closed, a lot of other things are closed, parents have more time with their children. Children are at home much more. And for some people, that has been a challenging experience. And for others, it has been, a rewarding experience, been a good experience. I guess I want to just ask all of you, and I'll throw in some things as well. What has been probably one of the biggest challenges that you've seen with kids being at home more? And then I'll ask you afterwards, what's been one of the bigger benefits that you've experienced from your kids being at home more?
Well, for me, because I am an essential worker, I have not been home. I have worked in the hospital on the front lines, making sure that our staff's ability to manage the trauma that they're experiencing is sufficient for them to continue to do the heavy work that they have been doing since all this has started. And also managing a lot of the logistics that allow the staff to have what they need in order to do their work. Mm-hmm. So I have relied heavily on my husband and extended family in terms of childcare for my son. So there has been that very different experience of, I see a lot of comments online about people staying at home, and I'm like, so that has been a challenge as well, feeling, I think, the imbalance of not being able to share the parenting load with our child being at home until very recently. Now he has returned to his nursery setting. So that had been what had been heavy for me personally during the real intense part of the surge.
Yeah. Yeah,
for me, it's been 3 things. It's been, number 1 has been feeding them. Number 2 has been keeping the house clean. And number 3 has been, not allowing a screen to parent them, like really trying to balance their screen times as they're home, like all day, Well, my kids were home all day. They're not home anymore. I was like, I sent them to school. I sent them back to school after 2-3 months of homeschooling. I was like, yeah, no, we can't do this. So I sent them on back to school.
We're gonna come back to that, Rebecca. And this cleaning the house thing. What is this you speak of? I don't know what you're talking about. Toussaint.
Yeah, one thing, Keisha and I, just one of the challenges, I think, like Rebecca mentioned, just trying to keep them off the screen. A number of, the blessing is, we have outside where we can, just push them outside. So sometimes, the challenge is it's easy for us because our schedule has been so kind of hectic I'm playing tag team, like, okay, you're it with our respective schedules. The crazy thing about it is even early at the beginning, Keisha, the academy was transitioning from one building to the next. And so trying to move, physically move, intellectually move, all those different things was a major challenge. Just one of the things we have to make sure we're communicating with each other. And also we had to communicate with the boys and what their expectations were for this time. And it's been an adventure, really been an adventure.
You know, each of you, we'll come back to what maybe were some positives, but each of you brought up something that I think is very important. We almost make an assumption that because kids are home, parents are at home and a lot more free. But Dr. Seanna-Kaye, you mentioned, you know, being an essential worker, you had to go to work. And just even for both of you, Toussaint and Rebecca, pastoring, I know, you know, you had your work never stopped. And in fact, I want to ask you this is still connected with parenting. What did your ministry work life look like during, you know, because of this pandemic? Was it less hours, more hours, and how did that affect parenting?
I think one of the biggest challenges was hours were different. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges. It was irregular. I guess that was probably the best way to say it. There's a lot more intellectual work where I may not physically be out in people's homes or at the church, but the work I needed to do, and specifically, you know, if I'm studying or trying to navigate, you know, fights, hey, you put that down or you stop, you get in that corner, get in the corner. And just personally, I need just it takes me a little while to kind of get mentally on track. And so for me, it was difficult because I didn't have the set schedule. And for me, that if I'm out of schedule, it just really kind of throws things off. For Keisha, very similar, where she would kind of have to go into work. In a sense, similar to a kind of an essential worker, even though kids weren't there was a number of things that needed to happen because she also took on another role as registrar this year. So it's just kind of like, you know, so many things happen at the same time. It was just kind of a lot.
Yeah, I think it left me quite anxious. I feel like we were busier when COVID first hit. I feel like we were busier as pastors, you know, just trying to get online, navigate that whole kind of transition, you know, more than we were when we were in the building, and we were pretty busy in the building, you know. And so I think, just as Toussaint said, just trying to navigate, you know, the fights and homeschooling, because I was actually homeschooling, and I love, like, my staff. They were like, okay, we'll have staff meetings after school, so, you know, to accommodate Rebecca. So it was a lot of just juggling like that, especially because it's just me. So trying to navigate, it was hard. I was having panic attacks some nights because it was really real.
I'm an elder at our church. Wow. And so all that busyness you pastors were doing, and then when I would see the assignments in the pastoral ministry group chat, I would be like, I'm not available.
Yeah.
I gave at the office and I have no more left to give. So really, for me, the mental and emotional energy that it takes to do ministry outside of my full-time work, that usually is something that I'm really, really drawn to and deeply engaged in. I really had no reservoir for that, continuing with my commitments in our church because of the intensity of the work on the front lines.
Yeah. Thank you. If I could just jump in and piggyback on what she said, I think that was one thing we really had to learn. Is just saying, hey, I can't do it. You know, there's some things, you know, literally emotionally spent just from, you know, the basic stuff you got to do as far as keeping clothed, fed, you know, just those basic things. And then, you know, God forbid the internet goes out and everybody's going crazy. But just being able to focus on saying, hey, there's so much I can do, but I can't do anything else. And having to learn that that's okay. I think initially both Keisha and I were really struggling with the fact that there are certain things we used to do. She was on the praise team singing every week. She was doing a number of things, you know, children's stories, this and that. But we had to kind of learn to appreciate the fact that we just can't do, but there's only so much we can do and be okay with it.
Yeah. Toussaint, you said something there, and Seanna-Kaye as well, just being able to say no during this time, as well, Rebecca, just understanding, you know, I talked to different people who are actively pastoring and leading, and what I've heard is you would think, okay, pastors aren't doing anything now. They don't have to go out. but
Oh.
work increased because
Yeah.
they had to make shifts, they had to do a lot of the things that we were always doing before, just virtually. And so work increased, kids are at home. And I guess for you now with your kids at home, those of you whose kids are home, and even Seanna-Kaye, you can answer this. How did your kids even adjust to you being at home, working from home, and them seeing you? Were they able to kind of make that mental shift that, okay, they're at work, so I'm not able to access them as much? Because I'm sure that's a challenge some parents are navigating during the time working at home.
I think for my kids, it definitely challenge. I mean, even though now it's like, okay, they know when I'm in a meeting, or they know, not to talk or do whatever because I'm doing something like this, right? But I think they started to see the volume of meetings or different things that I'm engaged in, and so they're always like, "Why are you in so many meetings? And why does this have to happen?" Because you're here and you're present, they want that time with you, and so trying to navigate that has been, I mean, even to this day, has been pretty interesting.
I think with us, our kids are a little bit different. They want to have their time away to get to the phone. They can kind of go and kind of slide away and do what they what I want to do. And so we kind of had to make sure our kids, hey, you got to come away from those things and kind of set those boundaries. And I think if anything, to redefine what work was like. And personally, I had to do, LaKeisha physically had to go away to the campus where I had to work either late at night or early in the morning, so that when they were there, I could kind of be present if it's needed.
Okay. Seanna-Kaye?
Our son really had he learned how to ask for video chats with mommy. So a lot of our communication during the day would be via video chat, but also just navigating some changes in him also, and paying attention to cues from him. Just a really intuitive kid and feels things very sincerely and deeply. And you would see things impacting in terms of his questioning about where's mommy going, and even in his play, a lot of play about the hospital, a lot of play about washing hands and taking temperatures and things like that. So really being in tune with him around that, and really connecting with him around reflecting back what was happening in his play, and just watching for those signs. For us, often if he's going to be impacted, that's something that's going on in his life, we'll see it in his sleep and in the way that he chooses to eat and play. So those are things I really tried to pay attention to after the workday was concluded.
Yeah.
Good stuff. It's so interesting. Someone mentioned here, it's not only younger children with the parents, it's also our college students that went home in March, and parents had to adjust to the college students being an adult, having specific time allotted for their work. So, I mean, really, our whole world has changed, and the whole families are just trying to navigate these challenges. Now, I want to flip this a little bit, and those of you on here who are watching, type your questions. We want to definitely get your questions to ask our panelists. In the midst of this, and we don't ever want to make light of this, lives have been lost, people have lost jobs and businesses, but were there any positive experiences that you had as a parent and with your kids in your family during the midst of what has been some challenging times?
Well, I think we definitely had some opportunities to, spend more time, which is always good. My daughter, even though she's only 6, she's extremely creative, and she would actually find ways to bring us together more as a family. Isn't that interesting? But, from indoor picnics to, whatever, and she would set them all up herself. So, little things like that. I have to say, too, that might really, I don't know how you guys would feel about this, but I have to say that at some point I had to take a step back, and I felt like the Lord really helped me see that at the end of the day, it wasn't my kids that were stressing me out. right? Like they weren't the ones that were about to make me lose my mind. It was actually the rat race. It was actually losing our way of life. It was actually trying to, stay on top of things digitally and virtually. That it really wasn't the kids. Now it was that, okay, when I finish all this, I now have to give them some emotional time, right? Now they want some breath, but it's like, no, it was literally everything that came before that has me wiped out, that has me pooped, right? And that I don't really have the space now to give them what they're looking for. And so I think during this time, it has actually helped me to, it's given me a different perspective on parenting, on being there for my kids, making sure I leave that emotional space and physical space for them, not just be all about the rat race. And I think that was a very positive and kind of pivotal moment for me during this time.
Somebody's co-signing what you said there, Pastor Davis.
One thing I found interesting is that we have also deal with, and I'm just kind of looking at the title, y'all gonna make me lose my mind, and we it's almost a joke to kind of say that, but I think mental health during this time period is extremely critical. I think it was Rebecca that mentioned anxiety attacks and things like that, and I think the expectation is that everything's going to be normal, and so in our minds when things are off, it's like, man, I'm having an anxiety attack and I'm feeling bad. Why am I having these anxiety attacks? And why am I having? And I think we have to release ourselves to be able to say, hey, things are not going to be normal. Things are going to be a little bit difficult. I think anything we had to deal with some of those real things that both Keisha and I had to address and let our boys know. It let our boys say, hey, we are not superhumans. We have issues. We have challenges. They have conversations with the therapist or, counselor, and they're seeing that. And to normalize that, I think so many times, even or in my context, with African-American context, that counselors or something wrong with those, those type of things. But that element and aspect is okay, and we're good, and we're going to have our ups and we're going to have our downs, because honestly, our boys do have the same DNA that we do, and so some of the challenges that we have, they're going to have to face as well, or they face as well. So how to let them see it, number one, but then also allow them to see how we can get over it and still have fun. We've had board game nights, cooking. One of the benefits of this, we found out our oldest son is a phenomenal cook. And he really wants to get into that. And then my younger son was like, oh, well, if he can do it, then I can do it too. So both of them got in the kitchen and started cooking. And some of those things that kind of overwhelmed us has been opportunities to give some of our kids, I know our kids are a little bit older, but more responsibilities so that they can say, hey, I'm a part of this family just as much as my parents are.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Seanna-Kaye?
I was just thinking about how much the focus has been for me on being at work, and at home, and realizing how much before that it was really blended, and needing to establish that clear line of demarcation. I have 2 cell phones. I have multiple email accounts. I have many obligations. I have a 24-hour staff at church, at work, as well as commitments at church. And just really, when did I stop? When was my mind fully in the moment? And I think that this experience has really been it's exposed a lot of how I need to align my beliefs and my vision statements to my team with my behavior. So this has given me a lot of chance to practice that. I do think to the benefit of my son, especially him seeing mommy take deep breaths and him being like, what is that? And now he does it too. So to be able to really model for my son that when mommy's home, she's at home and she's present and she's not tuning into one device if something's popping off at work, and being able to put processes in place that move things away from the realm of person dependent to process dependent. So if everything is dependent on me and I can't go anymore, then there's going to be a problem. And also the wonderful support of my extended family as well. That really shines through during this time.
And I want to just say something. I to piggyback off of what Seanna-Kaye was saying, I think that is super important. What I've also learned during this time is like, even if it's just 15 to 30 minutes of, you know, uninterrupted time with my kids, right? Like that's invaluable for them. And it's only 30 minutes, but there's no phone, there's no anything. It's just me with them, totally plugged in. I found that is sufficient for them. I can go back and work. I can go back. They just want that time, that presence, right? You know, and where you are fully focused on them, and you know, they can fully have you and your attention. And I recognize that is such a big thing for them, and just being in that moment. So I'm not thinking about work. I'm not doing it. I'm very present in that moment. And it, like I said, it could be a very short time, but it feels like for them hours because they have all of you. And I think that's really, really super important during this time.
Yeah, what I'm hearing. Go ahead, Toussaint.
Sorry, no, I was saying one of the things we did is in the car, there's no cell phones. You know, when we're at the dinner table, no cell phones. There's moments where we just have no technology around so that we can focus on each other. And they've really kind of gotten involved and gotten engaged in communicating, not just with us, but with each other. And just those boundaries have been critical to establish moments in time. I think the other thing Dr. Wilks mentioned was the bubble or the family members that you have around. And I think while we haven't been able to have interactions in our family a little bit further away, but having regular Zoom conversations or FaceTime meetings where we can connect, where and I think that's really brought our family together in enhancing the richness with which we connect with one another. And that's a real blessing.
Yeah. So, and I got to speak for the people who might not have that level of support, because, you know, I'm out in California. It's just me and the kids. I'm a single mom. And I think it has been, that is very challenging. I like what Dee just said. And Toussaint kind of mentioned this earlier, but I'm definitely one of those people who during this time have, you know, reached out to a counselor and tried to, you know, whatever. And I think that's super important as well. If you don't have that support system, just to be able to talk to somebody, you know, freely vent, as she just said in the chat. But also, I think that's when it becomes so just very important also to like Toussaint said, create those moments of togetherness for those that are here, right? Like me and my kids are here, we are present, and to be able to create those moments together.
I mean, this is such richness that you all just shared. I think just to understand, first of all, this is not normal, and to not try to like sweep it under the rug, pretend, oh, this is just fine. Like this is challenging for everyone, kids, us, everyone we deal with, and some of the stress we're feeling, we might sometimes feel is from our kids, as you all mentioned. It's not. It's other places, and they're feeling their own stress, and it's good to do different things to help with managing that. Create family times, have extended family help, connect with extended family, and something that was said here. I mean, seek out help, talk to someone, set up a meeting. And I think we want to make people understand it's okay to do that. It's a sign of strength to do that. That it's parents, those of you who might be feeling stress out there, set up a meeting, talk to their counselors, their therapists out there. Those things are healthy, and we want to just encourage that it's okay to do that. You know, let me ask this, because maybe this may apply only to me. My kids are schooling at home, and they school at home. You know, when the school year ended. Is there anybody else who realizes now, while parenting at home, that school has gotten a lot harder since we were last? How have you guys managed helping out with the additional help your kids need with their schoolwork, if you had that stage, or if you're still at that stage now that they're doing more of their schooling at home?
One thing we've done, I've encouraged, did what my mom used to do, and I don't know if she did it because she did this true, but some things I don't know. Hey, listen, did you research it? Go back and research and show me, 3 areas that you found. And my mom always said, like, look it up. And they go that's Siri or Alexa, but it forces them to be resourceful. And I think that's one of the things that, my son really, just even yesterday, his phone broke, and I was like, what do I do? And I was like, you have to research it. He called Verizon. He's talking to the guy. And today he got a brand new phone. So I was a little angry about that. But, it allows them to see that they can become problem solvers. And I think one of the things we want to do is create critical thinkers for our boys, and force them to now not just rely on us, but now you have to be able to identify some of your own resources and create some of your own answers.
Yeah, Rodney Bishop, I feel you. This new math is killing me too. Go ahead.
No, as I mentioned before, I was homeschooling. I'm not anymore, but for the time that I was, I learned that to first of all have grace for myself and the kids, right? Because I felt, especially because my daughter was in kindergarten at the time, and you have to be super hands-on while they're on Zoom all day. Like it was really unrealistic, and I was just like, this is not happening. So what I started to say to myself, she is not getting what she should be getting. I know it, right? So what I started to do was putting her on for a certain amount of time, and then I would take her off. We would do more kind of in-home things, which I'm learning that with homeschooling anyway, like a lot of math can be done, baking together, doing things like that. A lot of home projects really kind of fulfill some of those things that they would have been learning in a book, but now it's very hands-on and they're doing it with you. It's not as stressful. We would take walks, look at the plants, this is all learning and taking in. So just having a little grace, as well as just understanding that it doesn't have to look like them sitting in front of Zoom for 8 hours, right? In front of the screen for 8 hours. And really just giving them some time to be outside, some time to do, very home things, hands-on things, and then just giving us that grace. And I think that was super important. But eventually, I couldn't do it. I was like, if this school is open in the fall, you will be there, right? So I send them jokers back.
I think for a lot of the parents that I've spoken to and supported during this time, I think that initially, it was a great big adventure, right? When we didn't know how long this was going to be, it's a great big adventure. We'll figure it out. And then, you start to hear parents really start to understand the value of the school day and kind of the implicit contract that we have as parents with school and with educators outside of the home. That we, when I think about the first time I took my son to nursery school and how I was just a mess in the car crying, and he was like, "Bye, Mom," but that after a while, I didn't have that feeling anymore. Once my trust level with the school, got better in terms of me and how I was processing, I'm dropping him off and I'm going about my day and I'm picking him up. And there's this contract that we make without formally stating it. It's not written in the handbook. It's not at the parent-teacher conference, right? And so when this upends everything, then we get this opportunity to see exactly how much we depend on the formal school structure in order to take care of this huge chunk of our children's day and ours as well, for those of us who sent our children to school outside of the home. So I think that one of the key things for parents during this time has been understanding what that contract meant for what we then gave to our children, right? So now that contract got on pause or is a big asterisk as the rest of 2020 is, then reorienting what your parenting looks like and understanding that at the end of the day, although home is the first school, that you are more parent than educator in the sense of what it is that your children receive when they're educated by others. So to navigate that role really required parents at some point to say, I have to put some different thinking into this so that I will be able to be grounded enough to be for my children what they need for me to be. And it's not what anybody was for them before, because this never existed before. Right. So it's rewriting those mental schema, that new contract for how we're going to be together in this space during this time in a way that we've never done before, in a way that also shows your children that you're thoughtful about this and you're figuring it out as you go along. It's not going to be perfect every time, but you're going to be there for them and as present as you can be to help them navigate these waters. It's a new day.
I love what both you ladies said, and along with you, Toussaint, just to have grace for yourself, parents. That this is, again, you're navigating some new spaces, new things. Someone said, be kind to yourself. Shame and guilt can cause us to feel badly about our parenting skills. In this
you can literally, Kymone, feel like you are, you can start judging yourself as a parent. And I like what Seanna-Kaye was saying. At the end of the day, I think some of us were like, okay, teachers, come get your kids, right? Yeah. But really, they are our kids. And like she said, just getting back into that kind of frame of mind, we had to kind of reshape the way we viewed, our days and parenting and, our kids. And like she said, we won't get it right all the time, and just literally for yourself and the entire situation. And that's why I was like, man, it might not look a certain way, but making sure they're able to get, what they should be getting, even if it looks like, let's go out here and plant a plant, like pot a plant, you know what I mean? But it's not stressful. I think that's the biggest thing, to not allow it to be stressful. Like, it doesn't have to look like a scheduled out, like, whatever. And it's just adding anxiety and stress to you. It's like, man, just try not to be stressed out during this time. And I think it'll be okay,
I mean, that's so good. Someone said, and have grace for the teachers as well. I have a whole lot more grace for any teacher out there. But please.
Definitely.
And you said it, Rebecca. They need to come get their kids, though. They need to. What's interesting? So we have, as I mentioned earlier, I have 3 teens. I have 1 extrovert and 2 introverts. And my introverts are in different scales of this introversion, right? How have you seen, now our kids are doing school at home. Of course, we're all doing worship and stuff at home. There are a lot less activities to go to. How are your kids handling less interactions with their friends, or how did they handle less interactions with their friends, especially with their different temperaments?
I think we have an introvert and an extrovert as well. Our oldest is the extrovert, enjoys being out, trying to hang out. And then for him to play basketball, it's like, I just, that's life. And so just finding creative ways, I think one of the things in just being here, just finding ways we have a bubble, saying, okay, you're going to have, talk to parents, say, okay, you're going to be our friend, that one friend that's going to be together. Or they become, they can just kind of find ways where they can play together. But also I found my youngest, he's not really excited about being around a whole lot of people, but he's really honed into his crew, his group. And so it's so interesting. He has his little phone and, or they're talking on FaceTime stuff, and it's the same individuals all the time. And so I just find it interesting that both of them, while they're different, both of them still value community. And also one thing we also try to do is have them utilize some of their gifts. The crazy thing is that one of the, our youngest, he has a violin in his room. We're like, yo, you got to play this thing. You paid all this money for it. He said, I want to play bass guitar. I want to play bass guitar. I said, you got to do one or the other, do both of them. And so he came down one night and just like, okay, here, I'm playing the violin, and hits a song. And I'm like, wait a second. And then a couple of days later, he gets a bass guitar and comes back down. I was like, oh yeah, Dad, I can play this song. And I'm like, oh my, and the gifts and the skill that these kids have can sometimes go dormant because we have so many other things going on. Yes. And so we acknowledge kids. We also remind us that I'm a parent. I'm the first teacher. And so while we acknowledge all of our teachers, I think I saw Angela out there, shout out to the Batiste. But one of the things we got to do is just find creative ways where we can hone their gifts in their introversion or extroversion in a safe manner.
Yeah.
My son is an only child. So I think that for us, the emphasis on socialization is high, because otherwise he's, and before he went to nursery school, he was being taken care of by one of our family members, one of our aunties in her 70s. And so, a lot of his thinking and reasoning was like a 70-year-old Jamaican woman. Like, that was how he operated in life, which was great for putting things away and, washing hands, all that stuff, and eating porridge. Like, he's up on that. because he is an only child and we are, parents, we became parents in our 40s, then, we wanted to make sure that he had that balance of socialization. So I was definitely concerned about that when nursery school was closed, and how do we navigate that? So I think that for him, it's been really important for us to have those interactions with our close family members, and that one family whose house we're willing to go into and they're into ours. So that has been really important for us to continue to nurture socialization for him in this new environment. And we could see how much he missed interactions with other children once we began to bring him more to the park or back into the nursery setting. They need it, so we have to really prioritize it.
Yeah, I think for me, I kind of, am a combination of both those two, that I feel like I was concerned about their socialization when this first started happening, but I realized quickly that they figured in their mind that I was their friend, right? So I was the one that needed to play Barbies or needed to play, right? Like I'm now that person. So I was like, okay, we gotta fix this quick and in a hurry, because y'all need some friends. And so we also kind of have made play dates with some people that we feel we can trust with that, and have kept themselves safe and healthy. Also, I think at this point we've just been kind of hanging out with whosoever will, because we were over it, but everybody's been safe. We practice safe practices, but I think it's they definitely need it though. I was like, we can't go 7 months, 8 months with them not being able to hang out with people their age and laugh and talk. I'm talking about in person, not just video, not just whatever, but some in-person interaction. And see, my kids, not only are they different genders, but they're also almost 5 years apart. So I did recognize that they started playing together a lot more, which is great, because normally my son is highly annoyed with his little sister, but they started playing together. But even that would turn into some fight, or she would get hurt and there's crying and tears. And so though I love that they started hanging out with each other more, I also was like, this is going to be the death of me, because y'all can't get it right. You can't work together. You can't play together. So we definitely had to start just looking for some different outlets and people that they could hang out with. And I think it's good, people that you trust, people that you believe have been safe and healthy. Please, you gotta do it. You just have to for their mental health.
Yeah. Those of you watching, please make sure you can put your questions in the comments. I feel better after each of you said that, because we have that one family that we've hung out with. It's like, hey, take your temperature. Okay, everybody's good. All right. Because you're right. It is so challenging with teens, especially, or kids, any age, just to FaceTime or Zoom with people. At a certain point, they want closeness. They want that, right? I want to just ask this before I get into this area on spirituality. I remember at one point during the summer, we're all in this house. My wife worked; she's an essential worker, but I was at home with the teens. And my kids are doing different things. Some of you know my kids are into business and stuff. But at a certain point, everyone's getting on each other's nerves, and you realize we all are sharing this space and we're doing everything together. And at some point, I started writing with one of them at a time, or I'd go with one of them at a time, just so that it could break up things. Were there any activities, and you might have mentioned some of it, and maybe some recommendations? What are some activities parents can do with their teens or your children? Sorry, I say teens a lot because I have teens. But what's some activities parents can do with your children during this time that break up the monotony? Things that are just novel or new, or just even resources you found.
I think one thing we did was we inadvertently got a pet. We were right before COVID. We were playing. They had this program where you can adopt foster. This day we're going to foster. We're gonna get it. You get it for 2 weeks. That was the day COVID started, and they were like, "Yo, if you take them, you got to leave now. You can't bring them back." And it was right before they left. Kids, I was like, "Please, we are here." And so we ended up getting a dog, and it was probably one of the best things, best work things. You know, it becomes a dog. But, you know, our oldest son has showed a lot of every morning at 6 o'clock, he gets up without being asked and goes for the walk. You know, I think sometimes I'll go out and walk with him in the morning, or, you know, just spending time with them. I think one thing Rebecca mentioned earlier is playing with the kids, is playing with them individually. My boys love basketball, and so my knees bad, everything, Rebecca, tore ACL, everything else. But playing with them makes a huge difference. And maybe not basketball, but board games, those things are really special. So just finding creative ways. I'm the one that wakes them up in the morning. And so, you know, I'm always wrestling with them or just doing something, because my boys are at the age where they got to feel and touch and see how you know, big they are compared to me. But those are just some things we really try to do. And Keisha, my oldest, drive, just trying to drive with them, just finding things where one of us, like you mentioned, we've done that where we'll take one of them in a ride, or we'll take one of them to the store and just have that conversation. Has been really helpful.
Yeah. I think walks, something very simple walks are, like you just said, Toussaint, have really made our day. We live right across the street from Loma Linda University. So going on campus, they can climb trees on campus. They can, you know, do what it's open space. They can run. And they even started making up little obstacle courses that they could challenge each other on. So, you know, I thought walks were just a very good way to get us out of the house. Also, you know, we could just explore and do certain things. So to me, that's something super simple. We all kind of can get our endorphins up, maybe depending on how fast or slow we walk. But I think, you know, also I would just be praying on the walks, like, oh, Lord, help me, like as I'm walking. So for me, they were prayer walks as well as just spending time with them. So I think that was crucial. My son definitely wanted to play basketball more, you know, and I'm old like Toussaint, but even though I could still
you're younger than me,
I think, but you know, so doing little things like that, I think cooking, baking together was a big one.
Yeah.
That was good. I think everybody just really kind of enjoyed that. Yeah, I'll turn it over because I have a lot more, but you guys, Seanna-Kaye.
Yeah, I think that all those are really great suggestions, and anything that you can do that involves as much of kids' sensory development as possible really helps to really make those neural pathways and memories. They will be talking about what we did with them to their children.
Yes.
So I think that whatever you're going to do, as long as there is that sensory connection, you're going to get a lot of return on investment for that, right? And for our son, developmentally, things are still happening to him that in a significant way, because you remember this stage with them at this age, there's a lot that they're learning. You know, he's not a baby anymore, but he's you know, some days he wants to be a big boy and some days he wants to be a baby. So, and sometimes, you know, within the hour. So a lot of what I build in with him is really a lot of praise for trying new things, and you know, just really saying to him, you didn't give up, you kept trying, that was great, that was awesome. Really pouring into him a lot of encouragement and support for him trying new things, like moving from the big wheel to the tricycle. That was huge, right? And then even for our son, going down the slide, some days he wants to do it and some days he tells me, Mommy, I'm too scared. So, you know, just being there with him as he tries new things, and any little step that I see towards the goal, I'm rewarding with praise, with stickers, with icicles on the porch, all of that kind of stuff. Just really wanting him to feel some agency and support for everything that he is trying to do during this time.
Yeah, I think something she said, Kymone, that we really can't move past, I think is like, she mentioned creating those moments. And I think COVID has given, and memories, I should say, I think COVID has given us those opportunities to really create memories for and with our kids. And like she said, they'll be talking about that they won't be talking about the pandemic in the way we will, right? They'll be talking about it in basketball. Man, my dad's knees were bad, but I beat him. They'll be talking about the pandemic like that, not the anxiety that came with it, they'll be looking back on 2020 and said, man, we had so many memories. Like, I know since we couldn't go to the movies, we started this thing where we would go to a drive-through, get some food, and then I would set up my little screen in the car, and we would kind of have movie time right there in the car while we're eating. And that was kind of our going to the movies experience, and they loved it. They're like, can we pick the movie? Can we do this? But just really creating those memories for them during this time, I think, like Seanna-Kaye, is super, super important.
Oh, it's great. I mean, just creating memories. Someone mentioned this is a perfect time for potty training. So any parents of potty training, good time now. Just look at the opportunity. Dr. Ainsworth Joseph asked something that I think, Rebecca, you started to mention. How can this be maintained as a way of life? I think we have an opportunity now to take some of these things that we're doing. We've expanded the activities, expand the things we're able to do. And it's maybe saying, okay, this night a week we'll have, something that we'll do as a family. This afternoon or whatever, we kind of begin putting specific times. One idea that we did is we wrote down a bunch of ideas that people wanted to do, put it in a little jar. And once a week, out something, and that's the activity we do that week. So this is an idea. This kind of connects to where I want us to go, because I know we have a few minutes. Spiritual life. Now, we talked about people were doing school at home. Now, really, most of churching is at home now, right? And for some of us, our children would have to go out to youth group or Sabbath school or Pathfinders. And for most things are cut back now. A lot of them are happening on Zooms, but it's not the same. How have you been able to continue to disciple or do more to disciple your kids during this time? And what advice or tips can you give people who are also kind of navigating that? Kids aren't wanting to sit and watch a whole service. What do you say to them that they can help their children to grow spiritually?
I have to say, I have to say my son's attendance at Sabbath school has increased exponentially. He is on time. He is on time. He is ready. He's good to go. So, and I see the benefit of it. So I'm really going to work on that. I promise. When conditions change, please, God.
I think for our team, one of the things is creating musical memories, because our boys are musicians. Of course, Keisha is as well. They're creating videos, or they're creating, Keisha's like, I'm going to sing the song. Y'all got to learn it, this week. And just creating those type of moments where they can express themselves musically when it comes to the words. I think the other thing is I had to write. I've been writing a little bit more, and in my writing, I'm having them read devotions and just challenging them in some areas. Our kids are a little older, and so sitting through service is not always they're not going to sit through an entire service. I'm like, yo, guys, I'm doing it every week, because for us, I go to church and we record every week. And so for them, they're home. And so, their Sabbaths are a little bit different. They don't have the structure they normally do. So we kind of focus on more of a nature format, where we are going to try every week, particularly on Sabbath, go out into an extended walk to, a number of trails or whatever, but just trying to find creative ways where they can connect with God, both musically, but also in nature as well.
And that's one of the things I hope to not change. If conditions allow us to get back in the churches in the way that we used to before, I cannot see our family going back to a situation where Sabbath is so loaded with a bunch of things. So I think that one of the things I think will have shifted in us going forward is how we Sabbath has changed, I think, forever. I can't see us going back.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. I think this is a tough one for me. I think discipling them has not been easy, because they definitely don't want to sit in front of a screen and watch, different things. But what I have noticed what I do. My example has kind of been the biggest thing. I noticed that if I have to preach, from right here on a Sabbath, that my kids, they'll actually sit and listen to that. Just me kind of what I'm doing, I think is awesome. Very big for them right now. So I think that is a thing, just kind of leading by that type of example, watching me navigate this time, praying or complaining or, whatever. And we definitely have different talks. But, and my son, I've noticed that he's been asking more questions just about God and different things like that, the earth, the whatever, during this time. But I think it's really just kind of been my example mostly.
Yeah. This one thing that you just mentioned, I want to just say to any parent, family worship is good. Just don't feel any guilt if you're not having family worship 3 times a day, every day of the week. You know what I'm saying? I think sometimes, as you mentioned, you model, try to have at least one time a week that you're connecting in that way. And I'll just say, for family worship, for anyone who's out there, as your kids get older, they're, sometimes it's just to have discussions in those family worship. You're not trying to be too rigid. Just, allow them to have the discussions that they need to have about God and spirituality and life. And I know with us, family worship, sometimes it's not as much singing as just talking, and we just go into the night and we realize, okay, this was bonding time. And so I just want to share that. There's a question here that I want to take, and then we'll wrap up. It says, any tips for you if you have a teen and it's the only one in the home in their age group, having no peers to connect with?
I think that for us, that was probably really hard, particularly my oldest, because he's the extrovert, especially at the beginning of, COVID, where there was literally, no contact, you're not going anywhere. And right down our house, there was this major fair. So it's like, I'm looking at this like, I want to get out of here. One of the things that we have to do is just explain to him the reason why, and just go really in depth with he's like, well, COVID doesn't impact me, and allowing him to see the reason why we're doing this, and this isolation really has to involves impacting other people that are beyond ourselves. And that kind of forced us to see, hey, there are people beyond the decisions we make are impacting, can have a global impact on a number of individuals, particularly for us. My mother is a cancer survivor. And so I have to remind him, hey, it may not impact you, but for somebody who did the same thing for my mom, it would be a wrap for her in a sense. So we have to be mindful of those things. I think we have to be creative. To be honest and real with the parent that's trying to deal with a kid at their age. It's going to be a challenge, and I think we can't just assume like everything's going to be okay. There's no way that we can, for a teenager, 15, 16 years old that wants to get out, that doesn't have a lot of social activity outside of Zoom or, going to the, taking walks, it's going to be a difficult challenge. And I think in those moments where we may not necessarily want to do it, we have to be their friend. We have to kind of engage with them. And, may not even think we're cool, but you have to find ways to kind of get in there and establish that, because at this point, and tell them, be real, listen, I'm your only friend. And if we got to find ways to get creative. It sounds crazy, but it's something we had to do. And eventually he came around, was like, okay, we got to just make it happen that way.
Yeah. I think it's important to those things that they like, maybe I don't know the age of the kid at home, but it seems like driving might have helped one of your kids, Toussaint, doing things that they really, it's gonna be you, but finding things that they are, and really setting aside that time to engage them on that level, I think is gonna be super important.
I think if that was Chaplain Kim, I think that may have been her. Shout out for you and the baby. Congratulations.
Yes.
Chaplain Kim.
Yes, congratulations.
Yes. You want to add anything, Seanna-Kaye?
Yeah, I was going to say just quickly, if your teenager is civically minded, that, the claps at 7 p.m. have kind of stopped for the healthcare workers and all of that kind of stuff, but we're still out here. So if, your teenager is willing to, do that kind of stuff, like find a way to engage with first responders or do something that allows them to, have some connection with giving back. If they're into that, if that's something that they can do, drop some stuff off for us, engage with first responders in some kind of way. We're still taking and still really appreciate all that outreach and all that support. So that's a way that
Yeah.
the key
I love
to
that plug. I love the plug, but it
I'm
also
a first
just
You
it
deserve
really lives the
responder today.
purpose.
Today I'm a first responder. I just want to say to that question. One of the things we did, is Rebecca, you mentioned it, driving. We have 3 teens. My son has his license. My daughter's, has her permit. But we started going to our local school parking lot. It was vacant on Sabbath afternoons, and let them drive. And that was something that it was like Sabbath became this thing they look forward to. We'd go on a family drive. And shouldn't say this, my youngest was getting to drive, and she's not of driving. It's an empty parking lot, and it was something she looked forward to. And that may be just something that you can do, just some activity that he's learning. He's getting an opportunity to do something that teenagers may like to do. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I want to thank all of our panelists, Seanna-Kaye, Rebecca, Toussaint, for the input. I've taken notes. It's going to help me with my parenting, and I'm sure it's helped those who've been watching. I'm turning it back over to you, Pastor Martin.
Excellent conversation. For those watching, if you came on about to lose your mind, or maybe you completely lost your mind, I hope the conversation that's taken place has helped you locate it and has inspired you to replace it. It's okay not to be okay. You're not alone. And I hope that you have been inspired and grown from it. Thank you to all of our panelists, our parents. Thank you for sharing from your personal experiences. We're praying for you. We want you to know, my friends, that you can mark your calendar and prepare for PELC 2020, which will take place December 6th through 9th. This year, Selah, Strength for the Struggle. We've got an awesome lineup of speakers and panelists that are preparing now to be as much of a blessing and a value add to you and to your family and to your churches. We look forward to our next time together. Until then, thank you so much for joining us. May God bless you and may God keep you.